Hello, my name's Maura. They told me it was just a family hike, a chance to reconnect. But by the time we reached the edge of that cliff, I realized they weren't trying to fix things. They were trying to end them. My own mother, my brother, my father. They pushed me and my 5-year-old daughter off a mountain and smiled as they walked away. They thought there were no witnesses. But what if I told you? Someone's drone caught it all. And what if I told you that wasn't even the worst part? Would you want to know what happened next? I used to think quiet meant safe. Our street in Missoula looked like the kind of place you'd find on a jigsaw puzzle. Snow melting off porches, neighbors waving from behind their windshields, kids' bikes left tipped on lawns. From the outside, everything about my life appeared ordinary. I had a job at the clinic, a 5-year-old daughter who worshipped her uncle, and aging parents next door who made the best lemon bars in town. But the day Tobias showed up with paperwork and Thai takeout, I should have known better. I was just getting over the flu, still weak, coughing into my sleeve as I opened the door. Tobias grinned, holding a bag of food in one hand and a manila envelope in the other. Thought you could use dinner and a little help sorting through your health stuff. You've got that insurance renewal coming up, right? I nodded, grateful. I trusted him. After all, he'd been around more lately, taking Janie for walks, fixing things around the house. He talked a lot about stepping up for us, like he was some stand-in guardian. While I ate on the couch, he sat across from me at the table, smoothing out forms and clicking his pen. This one's just standard, authorization in case anything happens. You know how crazy hospitals are. You don't want Sharon or Frank making the wrong call if something goes south. He chuckled like it was a joke. I didn't even blink. I signed it. And that, right there, was the moment I lost everything. The week after, we had dinner with my parents like we always did on Sundays. Janie laughed louder than I'd heard in days, playing her animal guessing game with Tobias. My mom, Sharon, was pouring wine, humming some old country tune. My dad, Frank, talked politics like always, nodding as if Tobias's half-baked opinions deserved a podium. I was watching it all happen like I wasn't part of it. Tobias leaned over Janie and whispered something. She giggled, then turned to me and said, "Uncle Toby says when I grow up, he'll protect me just like you do." She beamed at me like it was sweet. I forced a smile. Something about it didn't land right. Later that night, when I tucked her in, she looked at me with her wide, sleepy eyes and asked, "Mommy, do people ever just disappear forever?" I froze. I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to say people don't vanish just because they become inconvenient. But I couldn't lie. Not after the way Tobias had looked at me when I signed that form. Like he'd won something I hadn't even known we were playing for. The morning after that question from Janie, I couldn't shake the chill. It was the kind of sentence that burrowed into your mind and stayed there, like smoke clinging to curtains long after the fire's out. I was in my mother's kitchen sipping bitter coffee. Sharon sat across from me in her usual floral robe, flipping through a newspaper she didn't really read. I was mid-sip when she looked up and said it, so casually I almost missed the meaning. "If anything ever happened to you, I would raise Janie myself. I've already spoken with a lawyer." I didn't say a word at first. My heart didn't even race. It just stopped. She folded the paper neatly and set it aside like we were discussing the weather. "It's just a precaution," she added. "You've seemed overwhelmed. Between work, the flu, single parenting, Maura, it's showing." I didn't answer. I just stared at her, trying to figure out what she wasn't saying. Before I could speak, she slid a thick folder across the table. "Family Custody Safeguard." It read in bold letters. Inside, court pamphlets, child wellness guides, and printed blog posts about maternal burnout. "This is for Janie's future," she said. "You can't pour from an empty cup. Maybe it's time to consider letting someone help, someone stable." That word, stable, it wasn't an offer. It was a judgment wrapped in sugar. I didn't take the folder. I left it there and drove straight home. That night, something tugged at me. I opened my calendar on the fridge, the same one I'd used for years, and found an appointment scribbled in on Friday. Dr. Graves, mental health check-in. I hadn't written it. I called the number listed. Receptionist answered. "Yes, Maura Wilson, 3:30 p.m. with Dr. Pauline Graves. booked by Sharon Carter for her daughter's mental evaluation. We've confirmed through the emergency contact. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from fury. Dr. Graves. That name rang a bell. She used to work at the same school as Mom, counselor turned therapist. I remembered her from PTA meetings. Tight smile, judgmental eyes. I stormed back to my parents' place. Sharon was alone in the living room folding laundry, humming again. What is this? I held up my phone. You're setting me up? She barely blinked. Don't be dramatic. You need help. People are starting to notice. Janie deserves someone reliable. I'm her mother. Then act like one, she snapped, her voice like ice cracking under weight. You've been slipping, Maura. I'm just trying to protect my granddaughter. It hit me then, not concern, not fear. This was strategy. She wanted Janie, and she was building her case to take her. The following Wednesday started like any other, until I nearly didn't make it to the intersection by 6th and Cedar. Janie and I were running late for school. She was humming something from her tablet in the back seat, and I was trying to stay focused through the exhaustion still clinging to me like damp clothes. As we approached the light, I tapped the brake. Nothing. My foot went to the floor. The car kept gliding forward. I yanked the wheel hard right and missed a blue pickup by inches. Janie screamed, tires screeched, horns blared. Somehow we didn't hit anything. I pulled off to the side, heart thudding against my ribs like it wanted out. Janie clung to her seatbelt, eyes wide. You okay? I asked, voice tighter than it should have been. She nodded slowly. Why didn't the car stop? Good question. After I dropped her off, still shaken, still faking calm, I drove straight to a small auto shop just off Higgins Avenue. The place was quiet, run down, but the guy inside looked honest. Grease-stained flannel, kind eyes, slow to speak. He took one look under the car and gave me a strange glance. Then he rolled back under, stayed there longer this time. When he finally stood, he wiped his hands and said, Ma'am, this didn't just happen. Someone's cut into your brake lines. Sloppy patch job. Looked intentional. I stared at him. Are you sure? He nodded. It wasn't wear and tear. I don't want to make assumptions, but this ain't no accident. I left there trembling. I didn't tell Janie. I couldn't. But inside, something snapped into place, tight and cold. They weren't just setting me up as unstable. They wanted me gone. Silently, conveniently. That night, after Janie fell asleep watching cartoons on the couch, I pulled out my old insurance paperwork. I started comparing names, dates, account references. Then I saw it. The primary beneficiary had been updated, not to a person, but to a holding account under TF Holdings. The signature? A notary I remembered from Dennis's old firm, my ex-husband. The same man who once swore he wanted nothing to do with Carter family drama. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Dennis. There was a pause, then a low sigh. I don't want any part of this, Maura. Part of what? Click. He hung up. And that was enough. Whoever was behind this, Tobias, my mother, maybe even Dennis, they were moving fast, coordinated, but they were also getting reckless. They'd underestimated me. 2 days later, Sharon called and invited us for dinner like nothing had ever happened. Her tone was syrupy sweet, and she even offered to make Janie's favorite, peach cobbler. I could have said no, I should have, but something told me to go, see them, watch them, and I was right to. The house smelled like cinnamon and manipulation. Tobias was already there when we arrived, setting the table like he belonged in a Norman Rockwell painting. Frank greeted me with a bear hug and a beer I didn't ask for. Everyone was too cheerful. Sharon asked about my work, Tobias joked with Janie. Frank kept the conversation light, but I watched them, really watched them, and it felt like a performance, like they'd rehearsed every word. Halfway through dessert, Tobias leaned back, all casual charm. We've been thinking. It's been a rough season. Maybe a little nature would do us all good. There's a new hiking trail out past Bitterroot. Quiet, gorgeous, perfect for a weekend reset. Sharon nodded, spoon-tapping her bowl. It'd be good for Janie, too. You've been so wound up lately, sweetie. Nature heals. I smiled with my teeth. Sounds peaceful. But every cell in my body screamed. Back home, Janie was brushing her teeth when I sat on the bed and asked her, "What do you think about Uncle Toby's hike idea?" She rinsed and came over, toweling her face. "It sounds fun, but Mommy?" "Yes, baby?" "When you were sick, Uncle Toby told me we'd be rich when you weren't around. He said we could move somewhere big and sunny, like Florida." My mouth dried. "He said that?" "Yeah. I think he was kidding, though. Right?" I pulled her in close, held her tight, and kissed the top of her head. "Of course," I said. But I didn't believe a word of it. They were planning something. This wasn't a hike, it was a setup with a pretty view. That night I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a notepad beside me. I looked up trail maps, marked cell-signaled dead zones, reviewed weather reports. I texted a friend in Helena just to say, "If anything weird happens this weekend, call the police." Then I packed a flashlight, phone charger, backup battery, and an emergency whistle in my own day pack. If they were planning a trap, they had no idea I'd already stepped around it. Saturday came gray and windless. The sky hung low, like it knew something I didn't. I dressed Janie in layers, packed snacks, water, a first aid kit, and slid a whistle into my coat pocket. I zipped my phone into an inside pouch after double-checking the battery. When we pulled into the trailhead parking lot, Sharon waved from beside their car. She looked like she was going to a picnic, not a hike. Pearls and lipstick, no gear. Tobias wore hiking boots that looked brand new, no mud, no scuff. Frank had a walking stick, but no water bottle. "Ready to breathe some fresh mountain air?" Tobias grinned. I gave him a tight nod. Always good to be outside. We walked single file along the path, pine needles soft beneath our boots. Janie darted ahead, her laugh echoing, but I couldn't enjoy it. I kept scanning, left, right, behind. Sharon kept humming. Tobias stayed close, too close. Halfway up the ridge, Tobias gestured to a bluff that overlooked the lake. "Let's take a break. The view's amazing." Frank led Janie by the hand toward the edge. "Look at that water, sweetheart. Isn't it beautiful?" "No," I said under my breath. "Don't go closer." But my voice didn't carry. Tobias stepped beside me and rested a hand on my back. "You okay?" I didn't answer. "Come on," he coaxed. "Just a few more steps." I turned to him, met his eyes, and said clearly, "If you do this, there's no coming back." His smile didn't fade. "I'm counting on that." Then it happened. His hand pushed hard between my shoulder blades. The world tilted. My body twisted. I screamed Janie's name. I reached for her. She was too close to the edge. We went over together. Branches clawed at my coat. Rocks tore at my back. I wrapped myself around her the only way I knew how. The air was gone. Just sound, rushing, snapping, crashing. Then silence. I opened my eyes. Pain like lightning. Blood in my mouth. My leg wouldn't move. And then her voice, shaky, soft. "Mom, don't move. If we're still, they might think we're gone." I blinked at her, my brave little girl. Above, voices. Tobias. "They're not moving." Sharon. "Let's go." Their footsteps faded. I waited until the last branch snapped under their boots. The forest swallowed their retreating voices. Janie clung to me, breath quick and shallow. "We're alive," I whispered, the words tasting like blood. "We're still here." With one arm cradling her and the other shattered uselessly, I shifted my weight. My right leg sent a shockwave of pain so sharp I nearly blacked out. I bit my cheek hard enough to taste iron, using the pain to anchor me. We moved like shadows, slow, deliberate, quiet. Janie found a fallen branch to help me crawl. Her hands trembled, but her voice never cracked. "There's a path below, Mom. I think I saw it when we fell." She led. I followed. It took hours. I don't know how many. Time blurred into pine needles, stones, and sweat. I kept my eyes on her sneakers, telling myself if she kept walking, I could too. My girl was saving me as much as I was trying to protect her. Right before sunrise, a flashlight beam cut through the trees. A couple hiking early. Just chance or fate. I still don't know. "Oh my God!" the woman gasped, dropping her bag. "Are you okay?" "No," I rasped. "We were pushed. Call an ambulance. Tell them. This wasn't an accident." The paramedics met us on the access road. I was in and out of consciousness, but I remember the straps on the stretcher, Janie's fingers in mine, and the warm hand of a first responder brushing hair from my face. "You're safe now, ma'am," someone said. Safe? Not yet, but alive. At the hospital, they worked quickly. Dislocated shoulder, compound fracture in the leg, concussion, dozens of bruises. Janie? Scrapes, mild shock. Otherwise fine. My body had done what it needed to do. Later that night, a detective came into my room. Middle-aged, calm eyes. Nameplate said, "Detective Harold Brown." "I need to ask you some questions, Mrs. Wilson. But before we start, you should see this." He held out a phone. Video playing. From a distance, shaky footage from a fly cam. A group on a cliff. Zooms in. Tobias. His hand on my back. The shove. My body vanishing over the edge. It felt surreal watching my own murder attempt, filmed like some tourist horror reel. I exhaled slowly, my anger quiet now, controlled. "I'll testify," I said. "I want all of them arrested, every last one." 2 weeks passed. The morning of the trial, Missoula County Courthouse was swarmed with reporters. I moved slowly through the main doors on crutches, the sound of camera shutters clicking like insects in my ears. Janie stayed with a counselor outside the courtroom. I didn't want her to see what came next. Inside, Sharon sat beside Frank and Tobias in the defendant box. Her hair curled, her blouse perfectly ironed, like she was attending a Sunday brunch. Frank's face was stone. Tobias looked smug, but Dennis's seat was empty. His attorney leaned toward the judge. "Mr. Wilson is currently out of state on business." Coward. I sat down across from them, steady despite the cast on my leg and sling across my shoulder. I didn't flinch. The prosecution began strong, laying out the timeline, the drone footage, the beneficiary changes. But the defense had tricks, just like Sharon always did. They called Dr. Pauline Graves to the stand. "She exhibited signs of paranoia," she said smoothly. "Struggled with boundaries. I had concerns for the child's welfare." It was all rehearsed. Lies wrapped in credentials. Then came the notebook, one I'd never seen, allegedly pulled from my locker at the clinic. Phrases highlighted, "I feel like they're watching me." "Sometimes I want to disappear." Fabricated, but it was enough to cast doubt, until Janie's video played. Uncle Toby pushed her, Mommy screamed, Grandpa told me to be quiet. My baby, clear as daylight. Then the drone footage lit up the courtroom. Gasps echoed. The prosecutor revealed the insurance transfer. Dennis's name, his signature. The judge leaned forward. "These are not coincidences." Sharon wouldn't look at me. Tobias tapped his foot. Frank just slumped. I took the stand last. My family didn't just try to kill me. They wanted to erase me, make it look like I was unfit, paranoid, unstable, until I was gone. They wanted the money, the silence, the absence. I turned toward Sharon. "And the worst part? You thought being my mother made you untouchable." Silence. No verdict yet. But something had cracked. Publicly, irreversibly. The next morning, the courtroom was colder. Not the temperature, just the air. Tighter, more alert. The crowd thinner, but every seat held a stare. No more whispers, just silence, like everyone finally understood what this was. War in plain clothes. I stepped into the box again, no crutches this time. Just me, standing on one good leg, one battered soul. I adjusted the mic and met the jury's eyes, each of them waiting. "I was never supposed to be here," I began. "They didn't plan for survival, they planned for silence." I walked them through everything, again, but this time with steel in my voice. The insurance forms Tobias tricked me into signing, the break lines, sliced and sealed, Sharon's fake therapist appointment, the notes I never wrote, the hike I never wanted. "And my daughter," I said, turning toward them. "She told me, Uncle Toby said we'd be rich when you're not around." A few jurors visibly flinched. They called it concern. Protection. I call it premeditated betrayal. The prosecutor stood next, laying out a meticulous timeline. Paperwork, money transfers, call logs, drone footage, testimony from the emergency responders. The judge leaned forward, voice firm. "This goes far beyond attempted murder. This is a family conspiracy for financial gain, built on deception and psychological warfare." An audible crack in the room. Sharon snapped. "She's lying!" she shouted. "This is all twisted!" The judge banged the gavel. "Sit down, Mrs. Carter." I didn't look at her. I looked at Janie, sitting quietly with a court advocate in the back. She caught my eyes and gave me the smallest smile, steady, brave, the way I'd prayed she'd never have to be. I turned back to the court. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted to erase who I was and rewrite Janie's life to suit their story. But that ends today. And then I said it. Clear, final. This will never define her, not if I still breathe. The gavel fell a week later. Tobias, 25 years, no parole for the first 15. Sharon and Frank, 15 years each for conspiracy and endangerment. Dennis, finally dragged from hiding, was booked for fraud and obstruction. The courtroom emptied, but I didn't stay to give a statement. When the reporters pushed forward, I simply said, "Justice isn't for show," and walked past the cameras. Let them write whatever they wanted. I had nothing left to prove. 3 months later, Janie and I were unpacking boxes in a cabin tucked high in the Colorado hills. Pine framed the windows. Silence here meant peace, not danger. We stayed at a guest house run by Martha, a no-nonsense widow who ran things with a warm laugh and zero tolerance for pity. She'd been a friend of Jennifer, the nurse who'd helped me through recovery. Word had traveled. Kind people still existed. I picked up part-time shifts at a rural clinic 2 towns over. Quiet work, steady patience. My body was healing slower than my heart, but healing nonetheless. Janie started school again. She was quiet at first, but then one afternoon she came home holding a drawing. A lake, a cliff, a woman and a little girl holding hands, a sun rising in the background. David, the principal, stopped by that evening to check in. We talked on the porch. He complimented her courage, said something about her being a leader in the making. We drank chamomile tea in silence for a while, watching the sun fade behind the trees. Inside, I watched Janie sketch more. No monsters, no dark clouds, just wildflowers and sunlight, and maybe freedom. "She's not afraid of cliffs anymore," I said, almost to myself, and I wasn't either. We'd been pushed, broken, left to disappear. But we didn't. We rose where they thought we'd end. Maybe you're watching this with a lump in your throat, wondering how a family could turn into something so cold, so calculating. I used to wonder that too. But here's what I've learned. Surviving betrayal doesn't mean you're weak. It means you chose to keep living when others chose to lie, hurt, and abandon. And choosing to live, to heal, is the bravest thing we can do. I don't tell my story for pity. I tell it because somewhere, someone else is being gaslit by the very people who should be protecting them. Maybe that someone is you, or maybe it's someone you love. Don't ignore the gut feeling. Don't wait for proof to value your pain, and most importantly, don't let them write the ending for you. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to survive out loud. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt like someone tried to silence your truth? Or maybe you've had to rebuild after family hurt you in ways no one talks about? Tell me in the comments. Your story matters too. And if this video touched something deep in you, drop a 1 in the comments, or tell me what state you're watching from. I'd love to know where this message reaches. And, hey, if you didn't like the video, I'd still like to hear why. We're all here learning, growing, surviving together. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more real stories that don't flinch from the truth, but push through it. Because the next one might be yours. See you soon. Stay brave.